A new report out of the UK shows that possibly half of all food is actually wasted. The Institution for Mechanical Engineers said poor storage, strict buy-sell dates, bulk offers, and consumer fussiness is leading to half of all food being wasted. The study also showed that up to 30% of vegetables in the UK were not harvested because of their physical appearance. Legitimately good food. There was nothing actually wrong with it, just its appearance was slightly off from a consumer preference, or in actuality, a preference that a company wants to put forward in order to beat other companies whose appearance has a lot to do with food. 30% of it was just wasted. I mean, that's absolutely astounding. In a world where there are so many people starving to death, there's actually food being thrown out because it doesn't look good enough. Not that the food's bad, it just doesn't look good enough. It's just absolutely ridiculous. The institution's Dr. Tim Fox said the level of waste was absolutely staggering. And I would agree. Staggering is actually a very good word for it. Now, the report also says that between 30 and 50% of the 4 billion tons of food produced around the world each year went to waste. 30 to 40% of the food went to waste when we have more than 30% of the world in hunger. And it's just being wasted. It's just an absolute ridiculous contradiction of capitalism. It will provide the most, and yet it throws just about half of it away for ridiculous reason. It also suggests that half the food bought in Europe and the US was just thrown away. The amount of food wasted and lost around the world is staggering. This is food that could be used to feed the world's growing population as well as those in hunger today. It is also an unnecessary waste of the land, water, and energy resources that were used in the production and processing and distribution of this food. The reason for this situation ranges from poor engineering and agricultural practices, inadequate transport and storage infrastructure through to supermarkets demanding cosmetically perfect foodstuffs and encouraging consumers to overbuy through buy one get one free offers. Now, the study did also note that in different parts of the world there were also different sources of this problem. If you're in the developing world, then the losses are in the early part of the food supply chain, so between the field and the marketplace. In the mature developed economies, the waste is really down to poor marketing practices and consumer behavior. Now, it also found that a huge amount of water is also wasted. Totaling 550 billion cubic meters of water is wasted. It was being used to grow these crops and was eaten. Now, demand for water for food production could reach 10 to 13 trillion cubic meters by the year 2050. As water, land, and energy resources come under increasing pressure from competing human demands, engineers have a crucial role to play in preventing food loss and waste by developing more efficient ways of growing, transporting, and storing food. But in order for this to happen, governments, development agencies, and organizations like the UN must work together to help change people's mindsets on waste and discouraging wasteful practices by farmers, food producers, supermarkets, and consumers. Now, this just shows so perfectly that the world capitalist system is completely incapable of providing food. It does not work. It can produce the food, but it can't actually get it to people because it's being wasted for a myriad of reasons. And a lot of these reasons are purely out of the frigging market itself. It does not work. The market is not distributing food as it is needed. It is only distributing it according to profit. And of course, because the third world, because of its disadvantaged position, whether it naturally occurring or actually forced by U.S. imperialism or the imperialism of other natures through any kind of historical development in addition to, they don't get it. I mean, you could not have a more perfect symbol that the world capitalist system does not work. It cannot even get food to people. Yet, it is all based on this fraudulent premise that it works out for everyone so long as you work. It's kind of hard to sit there and actually claim that people starving to death don't want to work. Although starvation usually makes it kind of partly very hard for people to actually work. There's no one actually sitting there starving to death just saying, oh, I just don't want to work. Hunger, possibly the greatest motivator that there could ever be, is It's just completely ridiculous. This complete conception of capitalism that it does the best for everybody through the mechanism of the market is just completely and utterly ridiculous. And it's just absolutely insane. And the biggest defenders of this happening are, of course, going to be people in the first world. A vast majority better off, and of course, a vast majority white. I mean, this is the ultimate symbol of first world privilege. We can literally throw away, and that's exactly what it's saying. It's saying the first world, Canada, the US, Europe, and I assume Australia as well, just throw away about half the food that those places actually purchase. You couldn't see people doing this in Africa. You couldn't see people doing this in Asia. That would be considered absolutely ridiculous because of the scarcity of the food. That is a privilege that the first world actually has that will, of course, be denied by right-wing lunatics in the comments section. But I mean, this is utter proof of first world privilege, and utter proof that the market does not provide even something as basic as food. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And this definitely has to end. And quite frankly, nothing short of actually abolishing the private companies that do the distribution will actually solve the problem.